Hi, this is the story of how an adventuring party was saved from a total party kill by an interdimensional Dodo. Spoiler warning, this video covers the second book of the Pathfinder Rise of the Runelords AP from Paizo. Enjoy! Tabletop RPGs are known to get wild and unpredictable. It's part of the inherent nature of the game itself, and it's all about improv within the scope of the rules and getting as much fun out of them as you can. Which is why you can never really know how an event will turn out as a player, and even to an extent as the game master. This is the story of how a joke of an NPC saved a party from a TPK. Meet Kevin, a Dodo in the land of Golarion who just so happens to be the familiar of a half-elf bard by the name of Roberto. Look at them eyes, isn't he a charmer? As a GM, I always felt like familiars should be more of a personality and less of a tool, or simply part of a character sheet. It adds for some amazing interactions. So, let's start with the party. We've got a sharp-witted magus by the name of Nisa, a lost soul who's still figuring out where they might fit in. We've got Alucard, a tiefling fighter with a background in smithing. Tamara, a young kitsune rogue who's surprisingly wise despite her age. And finally, Roberto, the usual smart-ass half-elf bard who really just wants to be noticed. Roberto here, however, was about to discover a lifelong partner he never knew he needed. After returning from an adventure and barely surviving a hellish barcast at the bottom of a goblin fortress, he spent the night drinking and feasting in a tavern, turning in rather late into the night as the festivities had come to an end. Hours later, something wakes him.
Sir? Sir? I'm detecting some serious magic here. Rise, immediately.
Roberto wakes up as he hears a voice in his head. Ever since he picked up this old pebble at the bottom of a dungeon, it's filled his head with casual banter and some nonsense about being an old cursed wizard. Maybe there will be another video about Mr. Pebble here someday. In any case, Roberto gets up and follows the pebble's instructions, leading him to the kitchen in the dark and empty tavern. There is a clink of pans. Shuddering at the prospect, Roberto starts to argue with the pebble about whether this is something really to be concerned about. It's probably nothing at all, he says.
No, you moron. It's not that kind of magic. Hold on, is that something I smell?
What do you mean, smell? You're a thrice damned rock. Curiosity overwhelming him, Roberto peeks into the kitchen. There are indeed pots scattered about, and even the fireplace is blazing. Atop the fireplace is a large skillet, and within the large skillet is a dodo, its bare legs standing on the hot surface, ever so slightly fizzling. They lock eyes. It's meant to be. Squawk!
By the gods, it's so bloody stupid it's immune to the heat. It's beautiful. Oh, the magic. A horrifying creature indeed.
Roberto would come to name the dodo Kevin, and ever since then, the two have been attending adventures together. For reference, this was how I, as the GM, introduced Roberto's familiar, as he had just leveled up and taken a multi-class level in Wizard. But I decided to take it one step further. I thought, what could I possibly do to add some flair to the familiar, but keep things balanced? I started looking through various books and websites and found what I was looking for: the Amulet of the Planes. This absurdly expensive item allows its user to instantaneously shift to another plane of existence of their choosing, provided they can pass a steep intelligence check. Failure results in the teleportation to a random plane on the intended plane, or a random plane altogether. It just so happens that Kevin had a negative modifier to his intelligence stat. Mathematically, anytime he would use said item, there would have been only a 15% chance at success. So I slapped this bad boy on Kevin and told Roberto this was for flavor. Abuse of the mechanic would result in consequences, otherwise, go nuts, have fun. Now, arguably some GMs might criticize this and say that I can't just give my player a mechanic and not expect them to use it, only to punish them if they do. Normally, I'd agree, but my approach to pets and familiars is that so long as they have no direct impact on major story events, they are immune to damage and death in all forms. Invincible. If, however, they become an active player or combatant, they are now fair game for their opponent. Simple as that. You know, somehow, at the time, I missed the fact that I gave the players a hidden ace up their sleeves. It's absolutely incredible how GMs let certain things slip by thinking, oh, it'll be alright. That being said, it did make for some hilarious scenes at times, like when the party was imprisoned by the city guard, but no matter what the guards did to the bird, it would always find its way out without any explanation. Granted, this ability was insane, so when I gave the players familiar this ability, I gave them some hefty limitations. Namely, this item cannot be removed from Kevin, and therefore cannot be passed around and used whenever they want, and that no one in the party can make Kevin use it unless he wants to. He is a bird with his own free will, and no one can take that away from him. This meant that I can have Kevin disappear for hours or even days at a time, only to find him in a fierce battle with an elder madame at a brothel unexpectedly. I thought it was really funny at the time, so I actually made this happen once. Needless to say, Roberto's visit that night resulted in him being charged extra for an emotional and physical trauma inflicted by said bird. So, back to the story now. Our intrepid party was investigating a series of murders in which the victims were mutilated with a 7-pointed star engraved into their flesh. It was a gruesome work, but following the leads, they found themselves in the sprawling megacity of Magnemar. One of 2 major cities in the country of Arisia and home to nearly 20,000 people, the party had their work cut out for them. Some digging led to the discovery of a secret hideout in a sawmill within the southern district. Here, they were beset upon by almost 24 cultists, only to be confused by the results of their investigation. They found no trace of worship related to the 7-pointed star, and the leader seemed to be the victim of mind-affecting magic. This is when they found the letters which recorded a dark and scheming conversation between the cult leader and a woman called Mistress Zanisha. This name immediately set off warning signals for the party. This was not the first time they'd seen the name connected to the murders, although there was never conclusive proof that she was involved. So they wrote a letter, spoke the woman's name, and set it off with a messenger crow they found waiting at the sawmill. Watching closely from the rooftop of the sawmill, they watched the bird fly off into the north of the city and settle at a distant tower in the shadier parts of Magnemar. Some caretaking, imprisonment, and chores later, they found themselves before the Shadow Clock Tower in the Underbridge district of Magnemar. This Shadow Clock Tower was tall and decrepit, and it was found on the ocean shores beneath the bridge. This area of the city is known for its shadier and criminal underbelly, and it was certainly reflected in the clock tower. So, with grim determination, they set upon the tower, entering through their only entrance, a pair of shoddy oak doors at the base. Chaos ensued. At first, they were set upon by a construct, a golem deliberately created to resemble a massive and intimidating scarecrow, likely another devious servant carrying out ritualistic murders. Alucard the tiefling held his ground well, intercepting every attack, whilst Nisa the Vashkanya Magus made quick work of the foe with successive lightning-infused strikes of her rapier. They moved onwards up the rickety stairs of the tower, fighting off man-eating fleshy shapeshifters who leaped from the rafters in a terrible assault. Sensing defeat, one such creature sabotages the mechanism holding the bell atop the tower, causing the heap of metal to fall to the ground, shattering floor, staircase, and adventure alike before meeting its end at the base of the tower. The whole structure seems to shift uneasily, shuddering at the impact. The party takes a moment to converge and consider their options. But furious, and sensing the desperation with which the room at the top of the tower was being guarded, the party pushes on. Tama, bandaging herself and readying her bow. Alucard adjusts his armor plating. Nisa, acutely aware of the magic in the air and focusing furiously. Roberto, nervous at the prospect of facing a challenge he can't overcome. And Kevin, comfortably settled in the cushions of Roberto's backpack. A brief scuffle and tricky maneuvering among the ruined tower, the group arrives at the top floor. It is an open, domed room, with a pillar at its core. The quiet is unnerving. Suddenly, the western section of the building's roof and wall is ripped out, and an enormous wyvern-like creature barges into the building, rearing its ugly head for what is clearly a breath attack. Alucard shields his face. Tama dives for the cover behind the pillar. Nisa casts a shield. Roberto, however, picks up on something that everyone else does not. There is simply no way, with the building being so frail, could it support such an enormous creature. The boards beneath its claws are hardly giving in beneath what has to be a terrible weight. It's an illusion, he realizes. He opens his mouth to warn the party. Instead, he suffers an egregious blow into his back. A 3-pronged spear impales him, and its attacker unveils herself from her invisible cloak. Roberto falls to the ground, unconscious but alive. His attacker, now revealed to be a tall and masked Lima wielding a trident, sets upon the rest of the party. The illusion is quickly dispersed, and a raging battle is unleashed. All the while, Kevin cautiously crawls out of the handbag. He is confused. Why is Roberto like this? Has he perhaps drunk too much again? Clearly, he has. Following the usual protocol, he ruffles through the bag and drags out a glass bottle, comically large in his little beak. He rams the bottle into Roberto's mouth and starts bouncing on his face. The red liquid within swishes down his throat. The bard, suddenly regaining consciousness, rejoins the fight. To everyone's surprise, however, so does Kevin. The Lima, now sensing that she is at a disadvantage, charms Alucard, deceiving him into believing that his greatest ally, the Lima, is under assault. The fight intensifies. Kevin bobs in and out, peppering the Lima with measly fireballs from his belly full of fire. Unfortunately, though, it just isn't enough. The group was unable to turn the tide after the initial blow. The party is forced to knock Alucard unconscious. The Lima, devious as she is, goes in for a killing blow at the helpless tiefling on the floor. Foreseeing the attack, Tama, selfless as she is, dives in and takes the blow. She too is knocked unconscious. The only ones left standing are Nisa and Roberto, neither in any shape to finish the fight. So that's it. This is it. This is the TPK. The Lima, now obviously the mastermind Mistress Zanisha, prepares to deliver the final killing blows. That said, they still had their ace. Kevin, sensing the tension in the air, plants his feathery butt on the now pile of unconscious bodies. Reality warps. Kevin has decided that this is definitely not the pile of corpses he wants to die on. Roberto screams at Nisa to join the corpse pile and dives onto Kevin. Nisa, not knowing what else to do, does the same. Roberto screams, Nisa screams, Kevin squawks. Poof. The shift planes. Right out of my trident's range. The party got away. But then again, so did Mistress Zanisha. Honestly, as a GM, a TPK is never my goal, and believe it or not, we GMs want our players to succeed. And, I'm happy that Roberto decided to use the plane shift. There's nothing more disastrous for the plot than a TPK. Plus, this opens up a whole new element in the story. I have a big bad evil guy I can whip out at any time, and one that is known to be a schemer at that. Not only that, but our dear feathered friend Kevin is now on the table. I can and will go at him now and then, not with the intention to kill, but just to keep things spicy. Keep the players on their toes. Make sure they know that Kevin is not a free get out of jail free card.